In previous tutorial, I told you we need to create one database and we need to create some Java methods to input that data in the database. So on screen, you can see this is our database thing. So I'm using user, another user with, this is my password and thing. You can change this again. It's on your demand. Let me close this. So these are the SQL queries and we are going to create 3 tables here, which is basically first is ebook, second is e-librarian for librarian method. I'm putting the constant here always ebook pk with his name, primary key, call number is enable. What is basically call number for that purpose, which is basically it should be a primary key. I am enabling that call number should be unique. So name can be common, publishers can be common, quantity can be common, issued of number is also can be common, but call number should be unique. Similarly, ID of e-librarian should be unique. I'm mentioning that. Email can be same because it's university thing, you can part of that. And e-issue book, which is call number, which should be not null, student ID, not null, student name also I'm mentioning that, and return status I'm mentioning all the things. So this is all about how you can create that table and database. So let us see how we are going to create in this. So I already told you you need to create view librarian form, and why it's going showing me error, because in the login form I haven't mentioned all the things here, so it's showing me error. Also add librarian form also is missing there, so I created add librarian form also. Add librarian form, as you can see here in this part, and in the images there are images and all the things are mentioned now. So let us, inside the view librarian we need to create librarian DAO, but before that inside the DAO we need to mention some DB part also. Why DB part I'm going to tell you, because we need to mention the database. So I'm creating DB, which is basically database, db.java. I'm clicking the finish. So I'm creating here one, what you can say, simple thing I'm just creating package, and let me mention the package is our DAO. Simple as that I created here. So this is my servlet and this is all the things I mentioned. So let me also string user is equal to lib, as I told you, and my another user is string password is equal to L123. So this is my username and password. If you don't have, you can put your default password and name, but in my case I'm using another user, lib and L123. As I mentioned in the notepad also, I'm creating this. I already created this part, and I created get connection method here, and I'm connecting this. So I will put here database connection method. So now we are done with this. In inside the DB we created this. Now in DAO we need to create librarian DAO, which is basically librarian thing, or we can say librarian part, adding and creating. So let me create one servlet with the same name, librarian DAO. So I'm adding the information and I'm deleting this part, but I'm not deleting the package because I need to mention it again and again, and I don't want to do that. First you can close this part again because it's no longer required. So let us create librarian DAO part. So as you can see, you can delete this part first, and okay. So now we are done with this, but in the librarian bean we need to mention that part also, like importing this part. So let me import this first, and we haven't mentioned this librarian bean first, so we need to mention that part also. So now I'm done with this. So let me explain this. What is this? So it contains all mentions here. I'm importing libraries for first and I'm adding some class. So it will first save in the librarian bean with the taking the name from this and insert into the e-librarian. As you know, the name, email, password, mobile, everything. Then for the update, it's update e-librarian set name and all the things mobile where ID. So nothing but I'm mentioning here status and everything. Then this is again list for putting in array list to create all the things. View by ID, you can check view by ID also. You can delete, then you can authenticate for the authentication purpose. I'm creating here, and it is basically select email and password. So for the email, we need to mention this. But before that, inside bean, we need to create librarian bean also. So let me go with this, and inside bean, I'm going to create new servlet librarian bean, and I'm done with this. So let me delete this part because it's no longer required, as I told you. And let me, I already created this part librarian bin, so let me use that part. So let me tell this, what is this basically? So it is taking this, it is putting in the another part librarian bin. Similarly in the librarian bin, this is basically constructor, all those things, and it is creating one mobile name also. Get ID, set ID, get name, set name. If you know what is doing this, it is just fetching the data and it's putting inside this. So as you can see, bean librarian and everything is done, but what is remaining is basically view. So why this view is showing the error? As you can see inside this view is this, and now you can see this error is also removed. So you need to save everything, and we are done with all the mentions here, basically view librarian and everything. But before we need to deploy some another servlets also. So let me explain what is librarian DO is doing here is basically for the saving purpose and this. But what is inside this bean? Bean is basically just taking that data and it's putting in another variable. So why this is required? If you are going through this, you will understand it takes too much time to process some parts. As this is I'm doing in a servlet part, it takes, as you, for the librarian method only I created that much part. So it should be like some different things here also. So if you are managing your school bag, consider you are managing your school bag or college bag, you put in order wise tabular manner. You took your timetable, you choose your timetable, or you took your timetable, you see first period is this, then you are putting the first notebook or your book or anything. Similarly, what I'm doing here, I'm creating three packages here. Servlets is for the controlling part, DAO is basically for login and all the methods it's considering, but it also contains one DB, which is basically the connection. And bean is basically, what is the bean creating? Bean is for creating all the constructors. These are the constructors basically, and from the super method I'm mentioning this is the super method. And if you know the super keyword and these keywords, so I'm mentioning this ID to this ID, and because it's private, so it gives me some security purpose inside the database. Otherwise anyone can check that part and anyone can use that part. So, and all these methods, get ID, set ID. What is this? Get ID is for client, but set ID is for server purpose. Get name is again for the client purpose, set name is for the server purpose. Get email, all the things are similar. So why I'm creating two different methods here again and again. Similarly, I'm going to create for admin part also. Creating these methods also is very helpful. Again, this is public. If it's a public, but all the variables are private, so no one can change this public and all the things here. So it gives me 100% abstraction, you can say here. And I'm putting in the again and again using this keyword and return keyword. So this is very simple thing I can do. if you don't want to create such methods, if you don't want to create, but ideal condition you can create this and it's very easy. If you don't want to create, you have to mention inside the view librarian itself, and this is very tremendous because view librarian you can create only the view librarian thing only. So as you can see, this is bean id and everything you can create. So this is very simple. And librarian bean, what is basically this is, so it will create one method as I told you, beans and everything. So as you can see, this librarian bean and bean everything it will create. So this is very simple thing I can do with this. If I change to the beans, as you can see, this will be the error. So for librarian bean is very helpful for me the, and if you know this part, it is advanced for loop or for each loop you can say. As for librarian bean, as if you know this librarian bean, inside bean it's all the things here. But librarian DAO, as you can see, this is array list. If you want to invoke or use that array inside Java, you have to go with two methods, for normal for loop or normal while loop. But you can use for each loop in any librarian list, any advanced or secondary data like array, strings, list, array list, set, all things, hash set you can use for each loop. So for each librarian, this part bean is that what we can instant variable. For this list what it will be do, it will get id and print everything inside a tabular manner. And I am mentioning here tabular thing here, and I need to mention here admit librarian form also, edit librarian form. So we need to mention what is edit librarian form here also, and it should be in servlet. So I need to mention again here servlets dot, because it's servlet only, and delete librarian is again servlet part. So let me one do thing, I will copy this because naming is very important, otherwise it will give some error again and again me. So if you want to delete, it will delete this part. So always you have to mention this. As you can say, I mentioned all the things here. And now we are done with this. If you want to add here, you can add this part. So now we are done with add librarian. Let me tell you one more in bean part, which is basically book bin. So I'm going to create it later, but I'm going to use this part because it is very helpful me. First thing, it's very helpful for me. Second thing, I'm mentioning all the beans here. So currently it is no longer required for us because we haven't created such methods for that purpose. But creating in advance is very helpful while deploying all the parts. So let me copy. First, I already created this code. So I'm just explaining you inside this. So this is book bin. Similarly, I'm going to create one issue book bin, or you can say issue book bin part for the issuing that with some date method in SQL. So I'm just mentioning this because I don't want to focus in it later part because it's just bean part, or you can say method part. So now we are done with this. So our bin part is done. As I told you, we created 3 bins here: librarian, issue, and book. So now we are done with that connection part also. So in the next videos, I'm going to create some HTML, and I'm going to add some book DAO part also inside that purpose, and servlet. We are now focusing on the servlet part only later. So in next tutorials, I'm going to tell you how we can create the servlet part and everything. So in this tutorial, I just created book bin and issue book bin. We are going to use it later, that purpose, but I already created this. So this is nothing but all the student ID and restrictions. Always create some tables earlier before deploying all the project because we are going to use this. Also inside the libraries, you need to add Oracle JDBC library, otherwise it will show me the error again, as I told you. So let me add that Oracle library also here, which is basically Oracle database JDBC driver. So as you can see, this is added inside this. So now our JDBC also connected and everything is also connected. DB is also connected and everything is now done. So in the next tutorials, I'm going to create some servlets inside the admin part and DEO part. We are done with bean part and we need to create some HTML also. So let us see how we can create that HTML in the next parts.